All right, time for the first part of the review of The Boy Crisis by Warren Farrell. I know it's flipped, but that's the book. Before I start, I just want to give my thoughts and condolences to the friends, family of the police officer that was shot and killed in Gothenburg. Not really sure what to say about it. Um, that's not the purpose of this video, but I wanted to lead with that. Anyway, this episode might be the first quite controversial topic for that I put out there. So let's see how it's received. I'm going to talk about boys' education and boys failing in school. I'm going to talk about how women um, do not find unemployed men attractive in terms of dating. I'm going to talk about how girl-like behavior is being rewarded. If boys have a girl-like behavior in school, they will be rewarded with higher grades. And also talking about the opportunity to be a full-time dad. Again, this is stuff from the book, but so far it resonates within me, and I feel like it's what he's writing is all true. But as it comes to facts, get the book. He's referencing everything in the book to studies that are made, and he's an expert. I'm not an expert. But here are my thoughts. So he sees a trend in Western societies. I mean, he's mostly talking about America, right? And but the same goes for Sweden, which is where I'm from, and I suppose all developed countries in the West. So boys are failing in school. Um, they're falling behind, and one could argue that maybe boys are staying the same while girls are getting better and better. So it just looks like boys are falling behind. But that's not the case, actually. Boys are declining and girls are inclining. They're getting better and boys are getting worse over time. And this is something that you've seen over time, meaning that it'll most likely continue unless something is done, right? Um, if it's at, let's say, 100% success rate for boys once upon a time, then 90, 70, 50, 40, maybe we're at 30% now. I'm just making up a number to make my point. What is it like in 10 years? Is it 20 unless we do something or recognize the problem? Is it 10% success rate in schools for boys? Again, the book in the beginning here seems to be talking about all the areas where boys need help, young men need help, and it's overlooked. He will provide, he says, a detailed plan and remedies for this. But at the moment, in the first couple of chapters, he's just talking about where boys and young men fail. And I guess he'll continue to do so for quite a while. I hope I get better at these videos. So anyway, so since boys are failing in school, they become less educated. Okay, and less educated boys will take on jobs that require no education. And these professions, like perhaps working in a factory where I don't know, you sort different materials from one box to another, these will most likely be replaced soon by robots. They already have, but they will continue to be replaced by robots. If you're a truck driver, which is a very male-dominated profession, this will also soon be replaced by self-driving cars and trucks. We're not far from that. There's already these cars are already in production. These vehicles. Uber taxi drivers, also examples of jobs you can get without having an education. So these will either be outsourced to other countries, from Western countries to other countries, or that you will be replaced by robots. So the the boys and young men will most likely be unemployed in the future because there's more demand for an education. Women, on the other hand, since they choose tend to choose more social jobs and humanitarian jobs like social workers or healthcare and education teachers. These jobs become more and more stable. There's more need for medical staff because we're getting older and we're getting sicker, um, and um, and society is growing, so we just need more. We need more of everything. So young girls, their job market is stable because not only are they getting the education required, but their jobs are not being outsourced or they're not being replaced by robots. Which is great for women and great for girls, but we need to take care of the men because what happens? So if a boy is uneducated and he has a low education requirement for his job, or it gets outsourced, then he's unemployed and he doesn't get paid well. And if he's unemployed, the chances of meeting a partner that he can actually commit to, and this brings me to the next chapter, is going to be hard because, according to a large study, 3 out of 4 women prefer not to date a man who is unemployed. It seems unattractive. I asked several of my female friends about this. They all have families and kids now, but they still said that, yeah, I don't think I would date a man who was unemployed. You know, perhaps, early teens, who cares? But later in life, maybe mid 20s or something, that would seem like just another child to take on. Um, Going back a little bit, for a man to not be able to provide for his family used to be one of the main goals you had as a man, if you go back 50 to 100 years. I talked about this with Anastasia on my first podcast episode. And so now that we are no longer the sole provider for the family, and there are the actual purpose that a man had has gone away, right? There's no purpose. Before, you would either go to war, you would fight for your country, you would fight for your family, for their protection, or you would take on a really dangerous job like, I don't know, working in a coal mine or a firefighter or things like that. And the interesting thing here is that men have always they've been programmed by nature. This is according to the book, and I completely agree with it. It makes sense to me. Men have been programmed by evolution to take on risks but not whine about it. Okay, I suppose it has something to do with testosterone. Okay, so testosterone makes us want to take risks. So we've been programmed to do that, and it's given us a purpose in life. So now that purpose has gone away, what's left? There's like this void, this emptiness that he talks about in the book, and it's really important because this void makes you feel like you have no purpose in life, and it's easily to get depressed. So what do? You get addicted to things, either alcohol or video games, right? Really important. What does this create? Well, it keeps you, I suppose, at a child's stage, right? And you never grow up. Um, and what woman would like to date a man who's a child still, who plays video? I mean, I play video games, right? I've done for all my life, and I still do, but less because I have a daughter now, right? And that gives me purpose. Um, so it's this like never-ending spiral for men. Um, anyway, going back to the next part. So men have been programmed by nature to die, to take on the risk of dying without complaining. And women, and here comes the controversial part where uh, a lot of people might be outraged, especially if you live in Sweden. But that's the point of these videos. It's to talk about these things, and because they're actually true, believe it or not. Just look at the book and the references and the studies that have been made. But in Sweden, we don't look at science. It seems we just look at what seems to be the narrative of a political agenda that's been going on for many, many years. That has been great for women, and that's fantastic, but men have been neglected and fallen behind. Somebody needs to advocate for men, and that's what this book is doing. So women, here's the controversial part. Women have been hardwired or programmed to, what did I write down? Because I got notes here. Um, and women have been programmed to reproduce with alpha men, meaning the men who take on high risks. And um, so that was needed back then. It's not needed now. Women don't need an alpha man to be supportive, to support themselves. Before they had to. Did you not choose a man who was a man, so to speak, who had those traits, taking on risks, etc.? Most likely he could not support you, according to the book, and I completely agree. This is not stuff, everything that I'm saying here, if I'm not saying it's my opinion, it's all from the book, meaning it's researched and it has evidence behind it. So you can't argue. No, of course you can. Um, So it was needed in the past, but it's not needed now. But the thing is, evolution, we can't change evolution overnight. Evolution, it's millions and millions of years behind us. That's shaped us the way we are. And we can't change that over 40 years or 50 years where men and women have been equal in the workplace. And the book is trying to help men find their way in this new society. We need to help men transition into this new world that we're living in, and it's very, very clear to me that this is even more. This is needed even more in France because in France, dads just up until recently only get well, they just had 2 weeks of paternity leave. 2 weeks. I guess overall the mom has maybe it's 3 months or something like that, but dad get 2 weeks. Where does he get a chance to bond with his children? Um, so especially in France, I can see that, wow, you guys really need to work on this. If the mom gets 3 months, the dad should get 3 months, but it's not talked about enough. In Sweden, you get 480 days, I believe it is, and you can split it down the middle, mom and mom and dads are sharing it. But it still seems like moms are taking more of this than men, the days of being home with your children. I'm coming back to the full-time dad part. I'm just going to go through the next point so I don't forget about it because I suck at this at the moment. So about education, I started with education, right? Boys are falling behind in school. Now, studies have shown, large studies have shown, that if a boy has a girl-like behavior, and a girl-like behavior is associated with being attentive and eager to learn or to participate. So if a boy has that behavior, you're paying attention, you're raising your hand, then you're more likely to get higher grades, even if you have the same test score, right? But in the final grading, you're more likely to have a higher grade if you have this type of behavior, which is really weird to me because boys I'm not a girl, so I don't know. I don't know what it's like, right? But I know what it's like to be a boy, and I can, if I relate to that as a man now, what it was like to be 16 years old, 15 years old, with all that testosterone going, it was so hard. And it's proven that boys uh, function better, their cognition function better if they move and do things at the same time. And I remember it was so hard just to sit there and listen and take in information. And I'm sure I have some sort of diagnosis, right? Some letter combination, but still, I'm a physiotherapist now. So, I mean, I could focus. But as at 15 years old, that was really difficult. So to expect that boys and girls will behave in the classroom the same way, that's crazy to me. And then you grade the ones who behave in the way that the classroom is designed for, right? So the classroom is designed to sit down and you stare and you raise your hand and you listen and you take notes. And boys mostly they want to run around and get out and get rid of all this energy that they have. But that gets you punished. But you get rewarded if you have the opportunity, if you have the quality to sit still, be attentive, raise your hand, and be eager to learn. Something to think about. And speaking of education, again, this is all from the book. I haven't said in my opinion so many times, right? Most of this is from the book. In 1939, they did a big survey, and being educated was the 11th most important attribute for a woman that they saw in a man. If they wanted a man, if he was educated, nah, it wasn't that important. Probably having money was high up there, and his how tall he was also a factor, because height, believe it or not, is one of the most important things when a woman is choosing a man. Very rarely does a woman choose a man who is shorter. Um, Again, not my opinion, science or research. But that in 1939, it was the 11th most important trait or attribute. Now it's number 4. So if a woman, if being educated is the 4th most important attribute in a woman when she's looking for a man, what is that saying about our future sons who are getting like they're just falling behind in school constantly? What is that saying about their chances of finding a partner and starting a family? It's not looking too good. Also, going back now to the full-time dad part, in France, the dad gets 1 month now. Fantastic. The woman gets 3 months and the man gets 1 month. Um, and So the book wants us to help dads transition into this new society. Dads, and I think we've found that in Sweden to a point. I think even though it might be difficult, it sure is difficult for me, even though I love spending time with my daughter, it's difficult for me to, I mean, the children, they take up so much of your time and energy. And as I talk about in the podcast, it's easier for women to do this because they're mostly, generally, they're hardwired to take care of kids. But still, I really find it super rewarding and I love it. I love spending time with my daughter, and I can't wait for her to grow up where I can perhaps be even more involved, because at the moment, at 10 months of age, um, I suppose I think it's easier for dads, this is my opinion, to be involved with your kids as they grow up, because there's more, you can go back and forth, you can talk, you can teach them things. At the moment, it's kind of like the child discovers things on their own and you just sit back and you facilitate. But as they get older, perhaps a year and a half, where you start to be like, no, you can't do that. That's when, and perhaps it will feel even more rewarding than it already is. But the book wants to facilitate um, or help transition men into this new society. And women, again, science or research, not my opinion. Women choose. This is about the pay gap. I've talked about the pay gap in my podcast with Anastasia. Feel free to look it up and subscribe if you want to, right? You can find it on YouTube, you can find it on Spotify. So there's this pay gap in the world and in Western countries where men make more than women. And there's this narrative that's been pushed that it's unfair. It probably was unfair way back when. But today, it's not as unfair as you may think. There's a lot of factors, and being like discrimination against women and what's the word I'm looking for? Discrimination against women and sexism is a small part of it. If you look at the research and the statistics, go to the Swedish Mediation Institute, I believe it's called, and look at the statistics and you'll see. Because women they choose to stay home with their children. They choose to take different career paths. They choose to work part-time. They choose different jobs. They choose jobs that has to do with people, and they pay less than engineering jobs. That's what they choose. Nobody's forcing them to do it. They choose that. So women are choosing to have a more balanced life with the family, rather than becoming a CEO or very high up in some sort of company that pays well, because that requires you to always be there. Anastasia says this in the podcast with me, right? She has a lot of male attributes or masculine attributes, male, where she doesn't have kids yet, so she's always there on time. She's very assertive. You can always count on her, and she takes on a lot of responsibility, right? And those are all male traits, masculine traits. Sorry if I messed that up. I hope you get what I'm saying. But women, once they get to the point where they have children, they make different choices. they choose to stay home. And that's probably the best choice, because that would lead you to a happier life where you bond with your kids and your family, right? We're fixated on this, that men have more power in society. I mean, before, and this pisses me off a little bit, because saying that, oh, men had all the jobs and they were privileged. Yes, they were privileged because they had careers, and women did not have the careers. That's true. But nobody talks about the value of being with your family, which pisses me off a little bit, because men did not get the time to spend time with the person they love. They might have worked 12 hours a day, or they worked in another area, right? Where they came home on the weekends and they spent time with the person they love, the person they choose to marry, and their children. I couldn't even imagine being away from my daughter for a month at the moment, or a week. That would be horrible. Even a day is difficult at work. And nobody talks about the fact that they sacrificed. Not only did they risk their lives in careers, because most jobs were dangerous back then, and most male jobs are dangerous. 93% of all work-related deaths are men dying. Nobody talks about the risks that men are taking in their jobs, and nobody's talking about the fact that the jobs that men choose mostly make them stay away from their kids more. And who says just, and but you know what? They get a big checkbook, they get a lot of money. That's where the power lies. When you're on your deathbed, nobody cares about money. You cares about the family that you have around you. So who wins? The one who chooses to stay home with their kids, or the one who is, I don't know, choosing to just work? And that's what Anastasia said. Society has made it so that, well, men are probably supposed to be this way. She made a good point to say that men don't, and I heard what she said, but I didn't listen to what she was saying. She said that there's this, boys don't want to even consider professions that seem girlish, right? And she wants to help them explore that, which I was against in the podcast, but I'm all for it now, having read a little bit more about it. Sorry, it just said that my device disconnected, and I hope it's still connecting. Otherwise, that would suck for this recording. Connect. Okay. So Anastasia, I got your point. So who has the happier life, men or women? Well, I suppose women have the happier life because they choose to be with their family, and we need to help men over the world, all over the world, especially in France, I think, to embrace that and be with your family and be with your kids and show them what a good male role model looks like, what proper masculinity looks like. And toxic masculinity, this thing that's been going all over the internet for a long time, or in society, toxic masculinity, show them what good masculinity is instead, by being there for your wife, for your partner, for your kids. And find the way, find a reason, find the purpose in you. Now that we don't have to focus on dying in coal mines just to get the money for the family, that's not no longer the purpose. Help men find the purpose where they feel fulfilled staying home with their family, their wife, and their children. Um, so yeah, what do I think about all this? Well, I failed in school because I was lost. I suppose I did not have a male role model in my life to show me how to do things. Um, I found male role models later, which kind of helped me. I wish I found better ones. Um, I suppose this could be enough for this episode. I am really liking what I'm reading, maybe because I'm reading what I was looking for, but I really, regardless, this is something that needs to be talked about, especially in Sweden, where I believe we have had a feminist narrative for a very, very, very long time, and that's been great for women. But like he says in the book, if one of the sexes win, both sexes lose, right? So women have to win and men have to win equally. But men here, have been left behind when the feminist wave came and helped women, which was a great thing for women. But it's time that we push men back up there and help them in this new society. So I'll put this will be on Spotify as well because it's a pretty long episode. It's 25 minutes already. And yeah, I hope to get some comments. Feel free to please hit subscribe or follow on YouTube and Spotify and drop some comments. It would be really nice to hear what you guys are saying and what you're thinking. A lot of you are sending me personal messages, which is fantastic, but feel free to put it on YouTube, the comments on YouTube, because it'll kind of get a debate going. And not that debates on the internet in text form is the best, it's the worst actually, but I would appreciate it. Well, let me know what you think in the comments. Again, I like when there is a new subscriber, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and the like button. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching or listening. Bye bye.